Welcome to the Jesseverse. Today I'll show you how to defeat the Amalgamation Chamber on heroic difficulty. Before you begin, split the raid as evenly as you can, having half of your damage and healing on either side. One tank should be on the Eternal Blaze, and the other should tank the Essence of Shadow. Players who are within 50 yards of the Eternal Blaze will receive a debuff called Blazing Heat, which deals fire damage every second. This effect refreshes and stacks every 5 seconds. Players who are within 50 yards of the Essence of Shadow receive a debuff called Corrupting Shadow, which deals shadow damage every second and reduces maximum health by 1%. This effect also stacks every 5 seconds. Periodically, Eternal Blaze will cast Swirling Flame, sending out 3 fiery tornadoes in a cone toward any raid member. Molten Eruption is a small soak effect that places several small circles near the Eternal Blaze that must be soaked by a player. Every player hit by this mechanic takes the same amount of damage, so it's important to only have one person soak each circle. If a Molten Eruption goes off without anyone in it, the whole raid takes damage. Fiery Meteor is a large soak mechanic that deals 1.2 million damage split between everyone hit. Everyone on the right side should stack in the blast. As stacks of Blazing Heat and Corrupting Shadow accumulate, the amount of damage that the raid takes can become overbearing for your healers. We decided to do a full raid swap around the time that these debuffs reached 10 stacks. Umbral Detonation targets several players with a debuff that deals damage and drops a puddle after 6 seconds. Drop all puddles along the left wall to keep lingering Umbra away from your friends. Coalescing Void deals heavy damage to all players within 50 yards of the detonation point. After the explosion, it pulls players toward it, dealing proximity damage. Shadow's Convergence spawns several Shadow Orbs that start away from the boss and move inward toward his location. Move out of their path to avoid damage. When one of the 2 bosses reaches 50% health, the intermission phase begins. Splintered Flames and Shadow deal damage to players within 10 yards of their respective bosses as they converge into the Shadow Flame Amalgamation. The Shadow Flame Amalgamation has combination abilities of both the Shadow and Fire Elemental bosses. Blistering Twilight is a combination of Umbral Detonation and Swirling Flame. Move away to drop puddles, then watch out for Shadow Flame Tornadoes, which move outward from each drop. Convergent Eruption is a combination of Molten Eruption and Shadow's Convergence. One player must soak each small circle, then Shadow Flame Orbs will close in on those locations. Finally, Gloom Conflagration is a combination of Fiery Meteor and Coalescing Void. Everyone should stack to split the damage of the soak mechanic, then immediately run out of the large vortex, which will explode after 5 seconds for heavy damage. Now that there is only one boss, tanks will have to watch out for 2 abilities for the tank swap. Withering Vulnerability inflicts the target with high physical damage and increases Shadow Flame damage taken by 200% for 10 seconds. Immediately afterwards, the boss casts Shadow Flame Burst, inflicting heavy Shadow Flame damage to all targets in a frontal cone. The off tank should taunt immediately after Withering Vulnerability, and the main tank should move away as to not be hit by Shadow Flame Burst. We brought the boss from one side of the room to the other every time he cast Gloom Conflagration. Just rinse and repeat, and you'll have Heroic Amalgamation Chamber under your belt. Thanks for watching, and thanks for hanging out in the Jesseverse.